Hi everyone, my name is Katya Rodriguez. Oh, wow. And as you've heard, I will be speaking about engaging my project, which is titled Engaging Families, Community Members, and Policy Stakeholders in PPSD Policy Development Process. My supervisor was Yvonne Graf, who serves as a school board policy advisor for PPSD, and she couldn't be here today because there is a long meeting going on. So again, my project was with Providence Schools, whose vision is to be a national leader in educating urban youth, and their mission has to do with ensuring that students are prepared to succeed in nation's colleges and universities for their chosen careers, and their core values are respect, equity, excellence, accountability, and appreciation of our diversity. And I mention this because even though my project consisted of mostly organizing and creating and overseeing the district's overall structure, policy structure, the ultimate beneficiaries and those who will be impacted by this work are the students. So I wanted to briefly introduce this and mention why this was important for me to keep this in mind throughout the entire process. So the internship goals were to review statutory requirements. This entailed reviewing all the policies that the district has and ensure that they were in compliance in the local, state, and federal level. Next, it was to create a policy work plan. Here I mostly assisted Yvonne and the policy committee because their ultimate goal was to create a work plan that ensured that all policies that were not in compliance were being reviewed. And so far a lot of them have been, but not all of them. They're still in the process of doing so. So this work plan is a continuing work that even though we created an initial review, it will continue going on, moving forward. And the next one is to recodify the policy manual. So I'm not sure if any of you have seen it, but as how it is right now on the website, it's very confusing and it has words that make no sense, like acronyms like EDAC that has nothing to do with the policy itself. So we recodified the entire thing, and the board actually just passed it during the last school board meeting. So that will be coming up soon, hopefully this summer, but it looks super pretty and the platform is very different and more intuitive than it was before. And lastly, one of the goals was to draft a bilingual policy development framework. The bilingual was just me adding it because I am bilingual, and I just thought, hey, you don't have to pay for it, so adding it there. And again, the overall goals were to ensure that the policies are my personal goal, those were the internship goals, but I had my own personal goals as well to ensure that all the work that I did was intuitive and accessible. Because yes, we have these policies that affect students and for district school board members and other people within the district to know they're there. But the main people who need to understand them and not only be aware of them, but know what they mean are the parents and the families and students. So again, making sure that the work that we're doing is intuitive and accessible, and making sure that it's easier to understand and people friendly. And as also to make sure that all the policies that we're reviewing are consistent and relevant to the district's strategic goals. Because again, a lot of the policies that are in the district, have not been reviewed in years. So I wanted to make sure that I reminded myself throughout the entire process of these 5 actually personal goals, because also the ultimate goal is to ensure that the process is equitable, and that was my goals. So I lived in Rhode Island for 2 years only. Prior to that, I lived in California, so I know a lot about California, but not so much about Rhode Island. So going into this position, I didn't know anything about the law, legislation, or anything about this state. So, and going into this position, again, a lot of it was to ensure legal compliance. So I had to review a lot of as Tom mentioned earlier, Rhode Island loves their laws. So it was reading and I was reading a lot of things that I had no idea what it meant, and I didn't understand them. So it took me a while. It was an initial challenge, but through it, I was able to learn how to interpret policies for the state and federal and local level. So I did that, and as I was reviewing that, I noticed that there was policy. There's a governing body, the school board, but what are we missing? There was this bigger piece that the district was not didn't quite have, which is the structure. They don't have a foundation where people can go to and follow through their policies that they have in place. So my main task for this was I wondered why isn't it that there isn't such a structure? Why isn't there something that people can go towards and follow through? So I spoke to Yvonne and I asked her, is there anything that I can do? And she said, well, why don't you try developing this policy development process framework where the district can go back towards and follow through. So I did, and to be fully transparent, I'm still working on it. So I created the first draft, but again, I want to make sure that everything is intuitive and making sure that families will understand it and that it will benefit the community. So I'm hoping to be done by next week, but we'll see. And while the framework includes governance, accountability, their key principles and responsibilities of everyone within the district, I will address the actual development process and what it's like, and the review process and what it's like with this cute visual that I hope you can read. So I made it in 4 simple steps, just so it's intuitive and easy to understand. So in the first step, the requirement is to fill out the PPSD policy checklist, which is this checklist comes from RIDE. And it goes through every district, but PPSD has modified it, or is currently in the process of modifying it, to ensure that there is non-technical language and that people understand it. And so again, in this step, it's to fill out the whole checklist, which includes like an impact analysis, cost-benefit analysis, why this policy is important, why do you want to review it, and questions as such. And who can make submissions? As you all know, the superintendent, the school board, and district divisions leaders can submit it, but one of the main things that is not currently addressed anywhere in the website or anywhere in the manual is that community members can do it. If you live in Rhode Island, you can make a policy, you can make a review or request, propose a new change, and the district does not explicitly state that anywhere. So I wanted to make sure that there was this highlighting section, letting parents know that they can make a change, that they can do something about any concern or issue that they have. So that's that. And once they submit it, they will submit it to the school board policy advisor, which is Yvonne, and she'll review the proposal. Right now, within the last school year, they created this new template where now every policy that has been submitted to the district or being reviewed or any change that is made is shifted or changed to this new template. So now, whenever anyone wants to make the submission, they need to write the policy in such template. In the past, it hasn't been done, so that used to be Yvonne's job, but now moving forward, hopefully it will be an easier process, because usually step 2 would take months, because Yvonne had to review all the materials on top of drafting the actual policy and making sure that it made sense for the policy committee to review it. So now moving forward, that won't be the case, so hopefully it's also an easier and faster, quicker if Yvonne has any questions, she'll go back to the submission, whoever submitted it, and ask any clarifying questions, and if she approves it, she'll move it. It'll go to the next step. So in the third step, the school board policy committee reviews the same materials, but now it's a quick document, which is just the policy itself. So again, this can be done in 1 or 2 meetings, one meeting to review it and the next one to approve it or ask any clarifying questions and such. And again, if they have any questions, either language, content, or anything that they're not okay with, or they have questions about or concerned about, they'll just go back to the school policy advisor and answer any questions. However, if they do approve it, it'll go to the next step, which is where the school board will review it. When it comes to the school board, there has to be 2 readings during 2 different school board meetings, because this will give families the opportunity to speak up and say any concerns that they may have, any comments that they may have. So the school board is required to provide this space for families. And again, if they have any questions or any concerns, it'll actually go back to step 2 and the process will continue. But if they do approve it, then the policy has to be immediately implemented within 48 hours, which just means that it'll give Yvonne some time to post it on the website. So that's how as of right now, that's how they communicate new policies or new changes. They just updated the policy manual, and if you figure it out, that's great. If not, then oh well. But that was one of my challenges, the challenges that I also brought up to her, telling her, it's coming up, so foreseeable challenges and recommendations. So one of the biggest challenges is public participation, because in the past, the public hasn't been aware that they can, or there wasn't a space for them, or they weren't aware, it wasn't accessible for them to make such propositions or proposed changes, recommendations. So I foresee that as the next challenge, because they haven't been aware in the past, and the district will not proactively reach out to them, send a mass phone call or anything, because they don't do that and they don't have the capacity. I would say capacity to do that. it hasn't been done. So I suggested that they provide a platform to submit policies through their website, because they already have this specific section. They can do so, and they can provide this space for them. And the next one is going to be implementation of the framework. And I suggested creating a plan prior to the next school year that could be reviewed this summer and implemented, because starting a new school year usually comes with additions to the rules. So I thought it was a good plan to moving forward, and my time is up. So I just want to say thank you to Yvonne, who's not here, but she was great, and Christina, Dr. Wong, and Michael Hurt. But really, going back to Yvonne, even though she's not here, I really wanted to say that I all the work that I did this semester, I saw it actually being implemented and being used, and that was really meaningful to me, because I didn't just serve coffee or do anything like that. Like the work that we did here actually made an impact, or would hopefully make an impact. So that was big for me. Thank you.